Good afternoon. How's everybody this afternoon? Happy Friday to you. It is November 19th, 3:48 here on the West Coast. Good to see you. And it's good to be here. Good to see you. Good to be here. Good to be seen. What are you going to do, huh? How is everybody today? I got the biggest straw of my life this morning. They keep getting bigger. Pretty soon we're going to have to join hands across America because these things are out of control. I've never seen straws this big in my life. Never. I never have. Good to see everybody that is here. How are you doing? I am your host, Josh Diaz. That's right, Diaz. D-I-A-Z. First name, last name, middle name. I'll never tell. And it is good to be here. Yesterday was an interesting day, watching all the reaction from the Robin interview. But one thing that I want to touch on that really fast is, I don't know if you've seen, I don't know if you know, there has been a $2 billion class action suit filed against at the Travis Scott and Drake, $2 billion. And then before that, there was a $750 million lawsuit between 25 different people. Wow. That is a staggering lawsuit. And we all knew that was going to happen. So don't think that just because these people are rich, I mean, they're not Elon Musk rich. They're not Bill Gates rich. This will be a major problem for many years. And wow. Unbelievable. Absolutely an incredible, not in a good way. It's just that news is just shocking, not shocking. I mean, I kind of saw it coming. $2 billion though. That's a lot of money. $2 billion between 200 people. Major. We're talking a major class action suit. It's just not something. Yeah, the Kardashian curse strikes again. Run, Pete Davidson. Run, Pete. I don't know how that guy keeps getting women. I just don't. Women of that caliber. Well, I don't know. I don't say caliber. Not that enthused. But run, Pete. Run for your life. It's weird. Didn't her ex-husband, Kanye, has problems, right? Doesn't Kanye have some sort of bipolar problem? And then so does Pete Davidson, I heard. She just, I don't know. I don't even think he's that funny, but he's on SNL. I don't know what that matters, but apparently it does. Apparently that matters. $2 billion. So today I wanted to talk about, this afternoon, I want to talk about, we'll talk about a little bit of everything, but we're going to talk a bit about purpose and meaning and why we do what we do, why I do what I do, why you do what you do. And basically we're going to talk about existentialism. And that is the theory of meaning in life. And what is the meaning of life? Everybody searches for that meaning. Everybody wants to know what their purpose is. Everybody wants to know what their calling is. And it's strange because the the philosophy of existentialism and the theory surrounding it, a lot of people believe that life in itself, our lives as individuals, can be meaningless, that there is no purpose to life other than you're born when you're born and you live and you die and you never existed, basically. And which is a very depressing way to think about life. I mean, if that's the way that you go in thinking about life, I don't know if that's not necessarily a good thing, right? So when you're faced with these challenges of wanting to know what life is all about, what life is, there's a Isaiah 6. It's in the title of this show, and the title of it is "Here Am I, Send Me," and it's basically, when God is asking, who shall I send, basically to fill in the gaps. And once again, if you're religious and you believe in God, take it as the way that you take it. And if you're not religious, it's still a good philosophy and good parable to know. And so God's, when you're talking about God and the scripture, he asks in the Bible, who will I send? Who shall I send? And I said, here I am, Lord, send me. Meaning there are people that need to fill in the gap. There are people that need to fill in the gaps for us. We're not perfect humans, and yet we take criticism a certain way, and we take arguments a certain way, and conflict is never fun. I don't enjoy conflict. It's stressful. But if you have a purpose in life, who gives you that purpose? Who's the one that gives us the purpose? Well, obviously, it's ourself. It's ourself. Nobody can really tell us what we're doing is right or wrong when it comes to us wanting to be helpful. Here's the problem, okay? There was a young man, and the war had just broken out. World War II. It was him and his mother. Mother was very sick. And he wanted to go fight in the war. But his mother was also sick. So he had a crisis on his hands. What do I do? Do I go off and fight in the war? Do I go off and fight in the war, or do I stay and take care of my ill mother? Now, going off to fight in the war is a very noble thing to do. He wanted to help serve his country. And even though his part in the war would be extremely small and probably not nearly as significant as he wanted it to be or wants it to be, he still is doing something that he feels is for the good. And he'll affect millions of lives in a very, very, very small way by going off to war. And if he stays and takes care of his mother, well, he's affecting one person in a major way. The impact that he will have staying taking care of his mother will be more impactful for one person than a little bit of just millions and millions and millions. And nobody could tell him what to do. There was no right or wrong answer. There is no right or wrong answer there. It's just a choice. It's a choice. And the right answer is the one that he chooses. Nobody else could tell him what to do. Nobody else could guide him. Nobody else could help him with this choice. And the fact of the matter was, there was no right or wrong answer. There is no right or wrong answer. What you choose to do with your life is your purpose. What you choose to do with your life is your purpose. We create our own purpose. We are not born with some predestined purpose. Not always. Maybe some people are, but a lot of us have to fight our way and create a purpose for ourselves. And who is it that tells who can tell anybody else what their purpose is or what they're doing? My choice is my choice. Your choice is your choice. And just because the government tells you that, you need to live a certain way, or a certain religion tells you need to live a certain way, or a certain person tells you need to live a certain way, these are still just people telling you what to do. It all comes down to who you are, your morals, and to live authentically is the best thing that any of us can do. If we're not living authentically, then we're just nothing but wolf in sheep's clothing. If we're not honest with what our purpose is, then we're doomed to fail. And I'll tell you that when you're authentic and people can tell if you're authentic or not, that's up to them, because that's another choice. That's their choice. If they see something in you that you appreciate or that they appreciate, well, then that's good. And if they see something in you that they don't appreciate, that's their free choice. But it's on all of us to live authentic. And what comes along with this life is criticism from others who are trying to find a way in their life. They're trying to find purpose in their life. And maybe they think their purpose is criticism. I didn't wake up one day and decide, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm doing what I'm doing right now. I gravitated towards this in a very slow way. And it just became clearer and clearer that this is where I want to be at this present time. This is my choice. And every choice that I make is my choice, whether it be criticizing parents that I don't feel are up to snuff. And, the reason that I do that is because I had one of those parents. Well, my God, the stars are aligning. We are allowed to feel how we want to. And the outside noise from other people who want to question our purpose, we don't answer to you and you don't answer to me. If you don't mess with us, then we don't mess with y'all. That's how it is. And I'm not that worried about it. I'm not that concerned with people who want to tear us down. We get talked about a lot. I get talked about a lot by other people. I expect that. I'm on a stage in front of people all the time, talking, giving my thoughts about life. I expect criticism. And that's okay. I can live with the criticism. I can live with the criticism. What I can't live with is the conflict. You got a problem, let's talk about it. If you got a problem, let's try and fix it. But let's just be honest. Because if we are not honest, we're nothing. We must be authentic. And the things that I tell you on here, the way that I feel that I have lived my life, I feel is authentic to what I'm telling you. Choices. I do not have it. I don't even have his email address. I'm sure somebody has an email for him. There are different stages. A lot of people do believe that life is meaningless. And it certainly can be meaningless. It certainly can be if you choose for it to be. If you wake up every day and live out to your potential, who can say that life is meaningless? I don't feel that way. I feel that I help people sometimes. Not always. Not always. But that's my goal. And the fact of the matter is, when people come to me with their problems, if I don't know that answer, I will try to give you to somebody who can. My life has purpose. My life has meaning. And I welcome criticism, but condescending criticism, I don't take too kindly to that. You want to criticize me and you want to have a conversation with me about something, then let's have that conversation. Very wise man once said that conflict ignored is conflict multiplied. Conflict resolution is part of life. You got a problem, let's hash it out. You want to internalize it, it gets worse from there. And it gets worse and worse and worse. Conflict ignored is conflict multiplied. We must confront the conflicts in our life, or else we're just going to be dragged down. After every single live that I do, there are certain people that react to my lives. There are certain creators who react to what I say. And if that's their purpose in life, God bless them, but you're wasting your time. What good is it going to do? If you have a problem with me, come talk to me about it. We can have an adult conversation. I have them all the time. And I want to get along. I always have, I always will. I love people. I love life. I love the essence of life. My life is by no means perfect. I've had a lot of struggles. There's also a saying that says something about it goes along the lines of, when you're a survivor, you just survive long enough to realize how much surviving can hurt. And surviving can hurt, but living a fruitful life. Look, my main goal and my purpose in life is to take care of my family, not just my children, my family. That includes my sister, my aunts, my uncles. Those people I care about. And even when they're upset, or even when they upset me, I am still there to try to help. Just like I would hope that they would be there to help me. Just like we should all be there to help each other. And when we aren't, we're tearing each other apart. There are things in this world that I can't explain or understand, nor do I want to understand some of the things that happen in this world. There's just some things that understanding escapes. But we're supposed to be better than the animals. We're supposed to be up in the food chain. We have opposable thumbs. We have brains that, you know, function somewhat. I would think that one of, you know, they say, oh, what's that? The canine dog, a German Shepherd, has the intelligence of a 5 to 6 year old. That's pretty impressive. But if we're on the top, I think that animals treat their own way better. I don't know if animals go behind each other's back and gossip. I just know that they have it out. And then when they have it out, they move on. You ever seen two elk go at it or whatever? They just clash. Boom. You know what I'm saying? And they just go at it. Bam, bam, bam. And it's over. It's done. But no, we make nuclear bombs. We make big guns. We set up sock accounts to talk about each other. We do everything that we can to take the essence of life away from people. And if I feel, and this is a choice that I have made since this Summerwell's case began, if you have a problem with me criticizing Dawn and Candace, you do not know where I come from, and you don't know how I got here. So the essence of life has brought me right here. What is the essence of life? Where has it brought you? Has it brought you to come criticize? Well, that's okay. Well, I'll criticize the people that I feel need to be criticized. And you criticize the people that you need to criticize to feel better. Because my conscience is mine, and it's what I have to deal with. If you don't know who I am or anything about me, then you don't know how I got here. And I don't feel that I need to explain it anymore. Just like you don't need to explain to me why it is that you want to criticize other people. It's just your essence of life. That is your choice. That's your choice, not mine. You live your life, I'll live mine. Don and Candace live their life, and I'll live mine. But once again, I'm not the one with a missing daughter. I'm not the one that has major discrepancies in my story when my daughter went missing. And we'll sit here and we'll talk about our neighbor in a bad way and whisper, can you believe so-and-so did this? Can you believe so-and-so did that? Oh, hi, how you doing? How you doing? Good to see you. Oh, it's so nice to always see you. It's so great to always see you. They get in the car and drive off. Did you hear that? Fake. Fake. It's fake. If you want to know where you stand with me, I'll let you know. Got no problem doing it. Never. I don't have any problem with it, and you shouldn't either. Oh, it's so good to see you. It's been so long. We should catch up soon. I heard that she's cheating on her husband. I heard that she yells at her kids. Oh, it's so good to see you. It's so good to see you. Nobody wants to start the conversation off going, hey, I heard some bad shit. Bad rumors going around about you. You all right? What's going on? Talk to me. Nope. No. That doesn't always work, does it? Well, so what do? Be authentic. Be authentic. You know where I stand on every single issue. I want to know where you stand. Because this flip-flopping, that's for the birds. It's just for the birds. It's not acceptable. Why would you want to live a life where you can't be yourself? Even if yourself is a bit abrasive and sometimes dismissive, possibly rude, you can work on those things. It still doesn't make you a bad person. That doesn't necessarily make you a bad person. It means you have some, minor character flaws, but who doesn't? We all do. Who shall I send? Here am I. Send me. If I'm what you want to criticize, that's okay. You're allowed. You're allowed to criticize, just like I am. Just like I'm allowed to have my opinion. Seems like a waste of the essence of life, though. There's so many other things that we could be doing. Working on ourselves, thinking about the next stage in life. Goals are so important in life. If you don't have a goal, then what are you doing? What's your goal? What's your goal in life? Is it money? Is it fame? Is it men, women? What is the goal? Because people who have goals are the most motivated people in the world, whether their goal is fruitful or not. If your goal's not, if your goal, when I mean fruitful, if it's helpful to others, if it's just self-serving, that person's still motivated because they still have goals. What do you do when you notice your kids' friends are bad for them? You know, I'm not really sure. I've dealt with it before. You know, everybody has their their kids have friends that maybe you don't like. I've luckily never really had to deal with it much. And but I'd be very blunt about it. I would have no problem with telling them, in my personal opinion, that what they're doing and talking about or who they're hanging with is not appropriate. Dr. Latina says, at what age did you begin to think deeply and face these life questions? Young. Probably about 14 or so, maybe 15, 14, 15. But I never really had good answers, especially then. I never had good answers. I wish I did. But I was forced to grow up a lot earlier than most, meaning, you know, I had to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil very, very early. And so I think my journey probably began a little earlier than most. It's funny. It's funny because I just recently just turned 36 on the 15th, and I have children who are 16, 17, soon to be 17, 18. And somebody told me the other day, it was pretty funny. They said, Josh is completing the mission of life, and now he's just on the side missions. And I never thought about it like that. I never thought about it like that. I've lived a life that most grown men into their 50s and 60s have. I've seen a lot. I've seen a whole lot. And I know a lot of you have too. And I've learned a lot. Seen a lot, I've learned a lot. I've failed a lot. I've made mistakes a lot. Second guessed myself a lot. I thoroughly had kids far too young in my life. And I do not recommend that anybody go that route. However, it worked out for me through sheer perseverance. That's it. And guidance. And good people in my life telling me what I'm going to do. I remember when my son, when I had the two kids and I was so very young, 19 years old, I remember asking somebody, I said, what am I going to do? And he looked at me and he says, what do you mean? What are you going to do? I said, well, what am I going to do? He says, you're going to raise your kids and you're going to go to work. And that's all you can do. And I said, wow, that's it? So, well, is there something else you want to do? I said, well, I don't know. What do you mean by that? And he goes, if you want to raise your kids, if you want to be a productive member of society, what other choice do you have? There is no other choice. The other choice is to be a disgrace. And he said, I didn't raise anybody like that. And in that moment when I was down, and in that moment when I was hurting and confused, I wasn't really in any position to debate. With this person, they were much wiser than I was. They'd been through a lot of life. Dr. Latina, I did some college, but I didn't do as much as you. I didn't go to school for 7 or 8 years. Studied some psychology. Got a minor. Nothing major. Nothing major. But I didn't become a doctor. I should have. Not that I could have. I learned most of what I learned, not just, well, I learned a lot from schooling and stuff like that, but I also learned years of counseling, years of therapy, years of questioning whether I was doing the right things or not. And that's why when people question me, I like, it's so funny because I just sit back and I go, God, like, who has an hour to do this? And they're just like, well, he said this and he said that and he said this. Go talk about something that's fruitful. Go talk about standing in the gap for people. Go talk about wanting to become a better person. And the life that you want to live is something that you have to bring into reality through hard work and the thoughts and the positivity that you need. You can't just hope that everything's going to turn out good. You have to work at it. Anything that has ever been worth doing has been worth doing right, and it always takes time. I've never accomplished anything in my life that I was proud of that I could do in 2 minutes. Never. It's always taken time for me. I learned that life isn't about instant gratification. And I don't know. I just don't know at what point we can all say, you know what? There's some good in all of us. And we really got to search for it. But we can't continue in our bad ways. And if the worst thing that I do is criticize a couple parents who I feel didn't deserve to be around their kids, deserve to have their kids, well, it comes from a place of me being that kid. And if you got a problem with that, I could really care less. Go ramble on. I just don't even care about that opinion. What I care about is the young kids that I've helped in my life and told them, I know how you feel. I know I don't have any parents either. And then they look at me and go, well, hopefully they look at me and say, well, if you can make it, I can make it. That is the war that I fight. That's the war that I fight. I can't tell you how many victims of murders that I've talked to. So many. And looked into their face and said, I was you. I am you. I am you. And you can turn it all around. And I tell them, you know what? Life is not going to be easy. Oh God, it's not easy. It is so hard. And it is so painful. And it is so distressing on its own without other people piling onto your back. But I chose a fight because I'm not a little helpless kid anymore. And if there's anybody out there that thinks that Summer or Orrin and Orson or Angel Overstreet or Dylan Redwine or any of these little kids, if you can tell me that you think that their parents did well and are on the up and up are excluded from criticism of the way that they've handled these situations, I'm going to disagree with you. And then we're just going to have to leave it at that. We're just going to have to leave it at that because we will never agree because you don't come from where I come from. We don't all come from the same place. I have a different calling. And I also picked my ass up at a very young age and said, you know what? I'm not going to let this ruin my life. I'm not going to let somebody else ruin the only life that I have. And he damn near did. And it was close. And I tried and I tried. And I kept getting pulled back by these conflicting thoughts, these hateful thoughts. How could you discard kids like trash? And when I see how some kids have to live, I lived it and I don't want it. I am not going to make any excuse for anybody ever who disrespects their children, who isn't living up to the standards that you are supposed to live up to when you're taking care of your children. If you don't want to take care of children, then don't have them. If you don't want children, don't have them. And nothing upsets me more than these people out here that don't even take care of their kids, but they want to help find others. I want to help take care of other kids. Go take care of your own. How dare you talk about Dawn and Candace that way? Well, how dare they treat their kids the way that they treated them? I bet if your kid was in that house being treated that way, you wouldn't be sticking up for anybody. You'd be pissed off. Don't tell me about, oh, who are you trying to convince? I'm not trying to convince anybody. I'm just telling you how it is. And the way that those kids, all these kids are treated is wrong. Don't ever question my motives. You don't know where I come from or what I'm capable of. I do what I do, you do what you do, and we'll leave it at that. I'll continue to make a difference in people's lives, and you'll continue to question everybody else's motives. That is where we will go from here. And I'm not going anywhere. I don't need anybody else. I know what my purpose is. I've already made that decision. I've already made my decision. And if you don't think that my intentions are good or my intentions are pure or that I carry a lot of grief when it comes to these cases, I've carried this grief my whole life, and I'll carry it the rest of my life. And I will try to help victims whenever I can, surviving victims, because there's a lot of them out there. I don't even consider myself a survivor anymore. I consider myself beyond that. I consider myself a teacher, a mentor. I want to help. And I think I do. Actually, I know I do. And if all of this culminates into me only helping one person, it's been worth it. It'll all be worth it. It'll all be worth it in the end. One person, one child. Because you know what? I had somebody that did it for me. I had a couple people actually that stood in the gap and helped me when I needed help. Wise people, wise men. I don't take advice from people who aren't wiser than me. I just don't. That would be just asinine to do. Anybody that I want to talk to, anybody that I want to feel a mentorship with, I'm going to have to look up to that person in a major way. Because I'm not going to go get advice from somebody like Dawn. No offense. Just not. There's nothing that he can teach me that I want to know. And I'm overwhelmed with the love and support that I get from everybody. I enjoy constructive criticism. I can spackle. Yeah, actually I can. Probably not as good as Don, but I can spackle for sure. Not that great. It's not that hard. I mean, it's just hard work. No, I don't want to know how to spackle. I know how. I've done it before. It's stupid. Um, it's hard. It's just hard. It's just hard work. It's not hard to do. It's not hard to figure out. Yeah. It's not that hard to figure out. What is hard to figure out is life and the thought of it being meaningless. And whatever we can do each day to get out of bed to be able to function as a human, that I really hate these headphones. That in itself is a purpose. I remember when my grandpa passed away in 2010, and him and my grandma, he had dementia and Alzheimer's, um, and my grandma, together long time, and she was obviously advanced age, just not as old as him, and she didn't have many health problems. And he was in and out of the hospital for a while. He was in and out of the hospital for a while, and um, it was tough. And I remember the last day we took him to the hospital. He was sitting in his chair and he was just shivering. He was freezing. It wasn't cold or anything. His whole body was just tensed up. And I remember just being really worried. So I went over and we got the thermometer and we checked his temperature, and he had a very, very high temperature. And so we pick up, I pick him up and walk him out to the car. I walk him out to the car. I get him in the car. We pull up to the emergency room, and my grandpa was in the early stages of pneumonia. And pneumonia really, that's really what kills, especially older folks. The complications from pneumonia become just severely, severely, severely troublesome for somebody of that age. And he was in the hospital for about 2 weeks, and we were up there visiting, and they said, we want you to put him in a care home. You guys are no longer able to take care of him. And we weren't thrilled about doing that. We wanted to get a hospital bed and take care of him in his house. And they said, well, it's just impossible anymore. You've done it for as long as you could. And so what ends up happening is his dementia and his Alzheimer's, everything was bad. It was all bad. He was doing bad. He didn't understand where he was, and he was taking his feeding tube out. He ripped his feeding tube out one day. So at one point they had this man strapped down to a gurney, these leather, whatever. It was almost like a mental institution type situation. So where he couldn't get a hold of his cords because he wasn't understanding what he was doing. And so I remember we were at the hospital, and I told my grandmother, let's go home. He's going to have an operation where they're going to put his tube back in. We'll come up here later. Let's go home. I'll make you something to eat. So we went home. Standard procedure. They're going to put it down. And my grandpa asked for a cup of coffee And then he asked for a sandwich. And they said, no, you can't. And he turned and looked at me and he says, Josh, I can't even have a cup of coffee and a sandwich. I said, I know you, I know. You will though. They say, here, have some ice chips. Yippee, right? And all he did was want a sandwich and some coffee. So they took him into surgery for the feeding tube. His heart was perfectly fine. His heart was perfectly fine. And Northern Lights, yeah, they can't have anything before surgery, but he had been wanting a cup of coffee and a sandwich for some time, and he was just not able to have it. And I understand why. Nothing wrong with his heart. They take him in. I take my grandma home, and I remember exactly what I cooked her too. It was a hot ham and cheese sandwich. I remember making it. She's sitting at the table and the phone rings. And there was some family back at the hospital. And my grandma, who at the time, her nerves were bad. Her nerves were so bad. And I remember her taking a bite of the sandwich. The phone rings and they say, you need to get back here to the hospital. Grandpa, his heart gave out, died on the operating table. So, what? So his heart gave out. I said, but that, I said, but that wasn't, he didn't have any heart problems. His heart was fine, right? And they said, his heart stopped. And I said, well, did they try and bring him back? They said, no, he had a do not resuscitate. And obviously my grandma just is in shock. And, it was a trying, especially that first hour, you're really trying to process what was happening. And, he had that, like I said, he had that DNR and he didn't want to be brought back. I mean, that was one thing he did not. Oh, if I'm going, I'm going. And I was like, dude, I get it. I get it. You wanted to go. I get it now. I get it now. I didn't at the time. But he was just like, no, thank you. This world isn't for me anymore. It's time for me to go. And I feel that he truly chose to go. And the months after, I was really worried about my grandma. She was suffering from depression and anxiety, which she never had in her life when he was alive. And it hit her like a ton of bricks. She lost a bunch of weight. She'd end up in the emergency room. She started having panic attacks. And so, as we're taking care of her, and it was a rough time. Oh, it was a rough time for her, for me, for everybody. And so I think it was probably close to 6 months had passed. And I was checking on her and, well, where's grandma? I didn't see her anywhere in the house. And I could hear her in her back room, in her bedroom, crying. She was crying. And faintly crying. It was the middle of the day. I went and sat on the edge of her bed. And I said, you doing okay? Obviously she wasn't. She was in distress. And she said, no, I'm not. I don't, she's, as she cried, she says, I just want to die. I just want to die. And I sat there and said, and I said, yeah, I know. Anyway, we got her up, we got her out. A couple days later, same thing. Same exact thing happened. She's crying in the back room. So I went back and I talked to her. About the third time this happened, I went in and I said, you're having a bad day. And she says, yes. I said, okay. I said, what are you going to do? She says, I just want to die. So, okay. I said, you know that there are people here still that love you, and we're all here for you. And I said, and I'm going to say something, and I hope it doesn't come off wrong. But the doctor says that you are perfectly healthy and you're suffering from a broken heart. I said, but it doesn't look like you're going anywhere for quite some time. So you're going to need to take up smoking cigarettes or something really soon. Or you can get out of bed and engage in your life. And she looked at me like, how dare? And then she says, you're right. I said, I know. I said, my kids love you. I love you. There are so many people here that love you. It's time to get up. Because I can't watch you do this. And from that moment on, from that day forward, she never again said that she wanted to die. She knew that even though her rock had crumbled, that me, my sister, my children were going to fill the gap. We filled the gap for her. And I couldn't do it alone. I would have tried my hardest. I would have tried my hardest. But she'll tell you that she remembers to this day when I said, you need to get out of bed. Because this is not working for you anymore. And she got up. And she got rid of some of his things. She packed up some of his clothes and donated it to Goodwill the following week. She put one foot in front of the other. And like she always has in her life, she bounced back. After my mother was killed, my grandma's purpose in life was to raise me and my sister. She had a purpose, but she was devastated. Devastated. And who wouldn't be when you have to bury your own child? So not only has she had to bounce back once, and by the way, when my mother died, she had my grandpa, her husband, to lean on. She had lost her sense of purpose. She had lost her sense of life and the essence of life. And she was ready to give up. And I'm telling you right now, She has her good and her bad days, but she has a purpose. She has a purpose. And I had a job offer for somewhere else. And I said, no, my grandma needs me because she raised me when I had nobody and I needed to help her when she had nobody. And life just kind of works out that way sometimes. Life just kind of happens to work out that way sometimes. And her purpose now is to bother me. But I don't mind. As long as she's not bothering me about hosing down the back porch when she does. She's a pain in the butt. Fiery, feisty, very. She got all of that back. She lost it all. She lost her essence. When my mom died, she was devastated, but she knew she had a purpose. And her purpose was to try to raise me and my sister the best way that she knew how. And she did it. She did it, and she did it the best of her ability. She sacrificed her golden years. She sacrificed her golden years. And for that, I'm forever grateful. And I remember thinking, is this what I'm going to do? And it was what I was going to do. She is special to me, just like your family's special to you. And sometimes we need to be able to fill in those gaps for each other. I can't tell you how many times I've needed somebody to lean my head on. Depression and anxiety are terrible things. They can make you incapacitated, heartbreak. And that's why the criticism of my peers, I can live with it. I love them all. And if I could help any of them in any situation, I would. It'd be hard for me to turn my back on anybody. It's just really not in my DNA. And I was taught that. I was taught that. It is okay to try to find your purpose in life. And it is okay to struggle and sometimes wade through the muck and the nastiness of the world. It is hard. Life is difficult. I mean, it is the most difficult. And it's interrupted by moments of happiness, sad, anger. We all have a purpose. But it is our job to figure out what our purpose is. What is our purpose? What is your purpose? Everybody's purpose is different. Thank you guys for listening. You've been in the lab. I'm your host, Joshua Diaz. Thank you guys all for the super chats. It's super, or super stickers. It's very, very, very generous. I do appreciate that. And I just appreciate you being here and subscribing and just sharing, chatting. Amy King, I see your comment. I'm sorry. I'm glad you're here. Melissa, Frosty, and Linda. You guys are awesome. Well, Miss Sunshine, thank you. The North Pole. Sharon, Scott H. Good to see you, Scott. Amy, Gulf Coast. Never Lose Hope. Kara. Kelly. Jazzy's mom. Tweet. Matt. Thank you to all the mods, subscribers. I haven't set up a membership yet, but I will here shortly and we will do exclusive stuff on the membership. Thank you guys so much for being here.